Project managers, they strive to complete projects successfully and on time. Unfortunately, more often than not, projects can run late due to estimation inaccuracies, bottlenecks, and unforeseen worst case scenarios. During a recent webcast, sponsored by Novel, a panel of experts discusses some ideas that enable teams to work smarter. Those ideas include utilizing float time as a way to help drive projects to completion. And two of the panelists, Tom Kendrick and Sydney Levy, suggest that sharing risk is another way to help keep projects on track.
It's very difficult to share risk on a project. The blame, and often when there are problems, there's a lot of that to go around. Most of the blame ends up being in the hands of the project leader and the project team. But that said, there are some ways to share risk that can be built into the contract, and probably the most fundamental way to do that is through incentives and penalties, where if you do manage to end a project early, there are incentives, benefits that the project team, the organization is doing the work, will receive. And of course, if they're late, then there are penalties that end up making their fee less or have other consequences.
I think that the old adage, you don't know how I feel until you walk a mile in my shoes, is quite appropriate here, because once the other parties to an agreement are aware of the risks of the other that could be incurred, they're more likely to consider sharing some of that risk. And in fact, AIA, American Institute of Architects, AGC, Associated General Contractors of America, and Lean Construction, in the past 5 to 7 years, have recognized this fact. And their contracts are more flexible when it comes to sharing risks. An AIA contract that's called IPD, Integrated Project Delivery, actually waives claims against each other except for 7 egregious acts, ranging from willful misconduct to liens and claims, encumbrances against the project by entities not a party to the agreement.
Sydney goes on to highlight a few more examples of sharing risk during the event, and our third panelist, Todd Williams, takes some time to discuss the importance of communicating changes.
The biggest defense we have to avoid the confusion and possible litigation is really a solid change control or change management process, depending on what you call it. It's that ability to go out and document, this is what I have, this is what's changed, and make sure that everybody understands that. That communication back out to make sure that I know that you've push things out this far. I can absorb part of that, but me absorbing part of that, it may not be direct cost, but that was part of my reserve that I had in here that I'm now using. So you kind of owe me some reserve here out in the future. So being able to actually track that and move down that route better is really, to me, very critical.
Other key ideas and best practices around assessing sources of uncertainty, estimating schedule impact, and gaining control of the change modification process are also highlighted, along with 20 minutes worth of audience questions that get addressed.